You're watching Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. The Seahawks have undergone a number of changes to the depth chart since the season began, and most recently with George Fant going to injured reserve. What do things look like for your Seattle Seahawks? We will break it down coming up in just a moment. Before we do, all week long, we are battling our Lions channel in a sub-battle to see who can get the most subscribers between the two. My guy, Mike Kimber, Micro Mike, the host of Lions Talk, does an incredible job. He's a great man. He served our country, and he does a fantastic job here at Chat Sports. As much as I love Mike, I would love nothing more than to crush him in a sub-battle this week. We don't want to just beat the Lions on the football field. We want to beat them off the football field as well. Show why we have the best fans in the National Football League. Sub it up, sub for dubs, youtube.com/Seahawks TV. And make sure and join us coming up for our watch party on Monday night right here on the channel. We'll see you then. The updated depth chart for the Seattle Seahawks. A few notable changes since the injury to George Fant that has placed him on IR. Let's get to it and break it down right now. We begin with the quarterback position. That remains unchanged. Geno is still your QB1. Sam Howell is your QB2, and there's no plans for that to change anytime soon, that the Seahawks will roll with those two holding down the QB1 and QB2 spots. Unless there's an injury of sorts, this will be what the Seahawks roll with for the time being. Meanwhile, the running back position for Seattle, Kenneth Walker a little banged up at the moment. Zach Charbonnet getting the majority of the workload with Kenny McIntosh as your RB3. And we got to see a little bit more of Kenny McIntosh this past week in the Seahawks win against the Dolphins. And you think about this. When the Seahawks run game was struggling against the New England Patriots, all I heard about from y'all for a good week was about how Zach Charbonnet was not that guy. He's not a very good running back. We badly need Kenneth Walker back and all that. And there is some truth to that. The Seahawks are better with Kenneth Walker, obviously. But I have told you, and I'll say it again, I think Zach Charbonnet is a starter quality running back in this league, and I thought he did a really good job last week. And as long as the offensive line is doing their part, Zach Charbonnet can succeed and play at a high level, and I think he's going to continue to deliver. I think Kenny McIntosh is going to have an impact in the receiving game as well. The Seahawks running back room, even with the injury to K9, is fine as far as I'm concerned. The wide receivers for Seattle, these guys have looked pretty dang good to start 2024. DK Metcalf's been on fire to start the season. Back-to-back 100-yard receiving games. Also set the franchise record for the most 50-plus yard receiving touchdowns ever in franchise history. Tyler Lockett has had some moments. JSN has looked pretty solid. And the guys behind him there with Jake Bobo and Shenault and company there. I like this receiver room. I know there's been some rumblings, some potential trade rumors on the Seahawks targeting another receiver, but I just don't see the need. I think the Seahawks are in great shape when it comes to the receiver room, and their receiver room is right up there among the best of the best in the National Football League with that three-headed monster. How would you grade the Seahawks depth chart? A, B, C, D, or F? What do you think of this group right now with a 3-0 record? I got to go with a B+. I think that's more than fair. What do you think? Give me your grade on our pinned comment today. You might get an ad break while the ad's playing. Get your votes in and let us know. The tight end room for the Seahawks features Noah Fant, who had a breakthrough performance last week against the Dolphins. Pharaoh Brown behind him. You got Barner and Russell there. And we've seen the Seahawks start to use Brown a little bit more in the passing game as well. Be very curious to see how that ultimately all works out with these tight ends. The offensive line, the biggest question mark for the Seattle Seahawks right now, has been all over the place. Charles Cross has been fantastic, but everything else, Tomlinson has struggled. Connor Williams has been up and down. Anthony Bradford has not looked good. He's hanging on to that job right now with Christian Haynes behind him, and Haynes is getting more playing time as the weeks go on. And then Stone Forsythe at the right tackle position right now has had his struggles. He has not looked good. Thank heavens for Charles Cross. My goodness. What would this offensive line be without Charles Cross? I mean, he has played at a Pro Bowl level this year. He's looked fantastic to start the season, but everything else has left a lot to be desired. We're all sitting here saying, oh, I mean, it's had a lot of problems. Even Connor Williams, who was supposed to come in and be this big difference maker, he was horrible against the New England Patriots. Hopefully he got a bad game out of the way, but my goodness, yes, you're 3-0, but you wonder how much longer can this offensive line, as much as they're struggling, keep this going where they don't hold everyone else back? That remains to be seen at this point. What's your confidence level in the Seahawks offensive line? How are you feeling about this group where things stand right now? Scale it for me 1 through 10. I'm about a 3 of 10, and that 3 is just about Charles Cross, not about anybody else. Weigh in and let us know. Byron Murphy jerseys are on sale now. Chatsports.com/Murphy is where you can get yours. We have the home jersey, the road jersey, add a 9 to that one. And we got the men's options, women's options, and free shipping is also available. Go see for yourself, chatsports.com/Murphy. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. That's chatsports.com/Murphy. Speaking of Byron Murphy, let's go to the defensive line now, which is a little banged up right now. The injury to Leonard Williams, the injury to Byron Murphy, each player left in the first half against Miami did not return. We're awaiting their status to see where they will ultimately end up, if they're good to play on Monday or not. TBD on that. Jonathan Hankins has been solid. Jaron Reed has looked really good. What I find fascinating when I look at this defensive line is that entering 2024, this was a group that was thought to be a strength of this Seahawks team. And now here we are, week 4, and the depth is already being tested here for this group. And they can't afford even one more injury at this point. With as bad a luck as they have with the injuries here, look, I just hope that they can get healthy, that they can ride this out, because this is a really good group. But you got to play through it. It's just not a good situation with how the injuries have fared for these defensive linemen right now. The linebacker room for Seattle, also a little banged up. Jerome Baker and Uchenna Nwosu on the injury report. Nwosu trying to make an effort to be back potentially as early as this week against the Detroit Lions. We'll wait on further details there when it comes to his status. Dotson has looked really good to this point. Boye Mafe, Derek Hall, they've been fantastic. Tremont Jones has had a few moments here and there. Even what we've seen from Tyrese Knight and Drake Thomas, both those guys have been solid filling in for Jerome Baker at this point. And for me, this is all about the head coach, Mike Macdonald. Mike Macdonald came in and said, we got to do better here. And the big point of emphasis for him was coverage, that these guys needed to do a better job as coverage linebackers. That's why he brought in Baker. That's why he brought in Dodson. And they've answered the call at this point. Even with the injuries that they've suffered, they are working through things. And so far, this group is holding up great, and they're better than what they were advertised to be heading into 2024. Corner room for Seattle, Rick Woolen looks good. He's bounced back after a down sophomore season. Devon Witherspoon's been fantastic. He looks like one of the best corners in football. And then beyond that, you have some serious question marks. We've seen the good, we've seen the bad from Trey Brown. The depth has been a concern with D. Williams and, of course, Nehemiah Pritchett as well. One thing to keep an eye on with this corner room here, as we get closer to the trade deadline, and also depending on injuries, of course, could we see the Seahawks potentially make a move at the corner position? Could they potentially go for a free agent? Could they make a trade at the deadline here? I think that's going to be something to monitor, especially depending on Trey Brown's play and Trey Brown's health status. He's missed a lot of time over the years. Is he going to hold up by the time the Seahawks get to the trade deadline? That's a great question. We'll wrap up here with our last couple of position groups in a moment, but first let's ask you, who is the MVP of the Seahawks defense right now? You know me. I love me some Devon Witherspoon. That's my answer. But you could go with Dareke Hall, Boye Mafe, Leonard Williams. Who's the MVP right now? Weigh in, let us know. The safety group for Seattle. This was another position group that had some question marks entering 2024, but Julian Love has looked fantastic. He's played at a Pro Bowl level. Rayshawn Jenkins has stepped up as far as that goes. Kobe Bryant, Kayvon Wallace are some solid depth pieces there. And they're really just getting started. I think that we're going to see more of the three safety look with Kobe Bryant potentially out there and getting the most out of these guys. And Smitty and I were talking about this earlier, that the Seahawks have such a great track record, a great history when it comes to the safety room. When you think about the guys that have played this position, dating back to the Legion of Boom days and all that, and the legacy, right? You know, replacing a guy like Quandre Diggs. I'm not going to mention Jamal because that's a whole nother story. But, you know, replacing a guy like Quandre, who played at such a high level for such a long time and was a leader of this defense, Julian Love stepped in and done a great job. Rayshawn Jenkins has stepped in. They have prided themselves at that position group, and the results are still continuing there. Last and least, the special teams unit for Seattle. Jason Myers is still your kicker, as is Michael Dixon and Chris Stoll at the long snapper position. Shenault's been doing the kick returns for the most part with D. Williams. D. Williams on punt return duties as well there for Seattle. Appreciate you joining us here on Seahawks Today for continuing Seahawks coverage. There's only one thing you need to do. That is subscribe to the channel. Help us reach our next goal, 58,000 subscribers right here on Seahawks Today. Subscribe now. We'll see you next time.